I never thought a quiet Saturday morning in our cozy riverside cul-de-sac would end with a gun aimed at my daughter's heart, but I should have seen it coming. The Homeowners Association meeting agenda had a bullet point about neighborhood compliance, and Karen, our HOA president, treated those words like a divine mandate. It was October 15th, 2024, and the air carried the crisp scent of fallen leaves and damp grass from the early sprinklers. My daughter, Lily, was hauling her violin case to the car for a school recital, while I sipped my coffee, pretending our street in this small Virginia town was just another slice of suburban calm. Then Karen stormed out of her garage, decked out in yoga pants and a blazer, clutching a clipboard and that tight-lipped smile people flash when they're about to ruin your day. It all started 20 minutes earlier with a notice slapped on my door: unauthorized structure and improper signage. The structure? A tire swing I'd hung on our maple tree for Lily. The signage? A hand-drawn poster Lily taped to our mailbox, advertising her free hot cocoa stand for the weekend. Apparently, the HOA saw hot cocoa as a threat to their pristine order. I told Lily to ignore it and focus on her recital, but Karen wasn't done. She marched across my lawn, rattling off fines and hearing dates, even claiming my car's bumper stickers a local bookstore logo, and a "Support Your Local Farmers" slogan created a disruptive atmosphere. If that's disruptive, the world's got bigger problems than my Honda. Lily, sharp as a tack but soft-spoken, asked if the swing really needed a permit or if Karen just didn't like us. I told her, "Sweetie, in the wrong hands, rules turn into weapons." My plan was simple: show up at the hearing, make my case, and let the HOA choke on its own red tape. But then Tom, from the HOA's safety patrol, rolled up in his neon vest, towing another volunteer with a measuring tape like they were surveying for a new mall. Tom claimed the swing blocked community sightlines, our trees 40 feet from the road. I asked which sightlines he meant, and he mumbled something about neighborhood aesthetics. I called it a poetic excuse for nonsense. Neighbors started peeking through blinds. Karen, thriving on the attention, dictated into her phone about my defiance and threats to public safety. The only threat was her ego. I told Lily to hop in the carway we're leaving, but Karen blocked the tailgate, grabbing Lily's violin case like it was evidence in a sting operation. I stepped in, calm but firm, and told her to keep her hands off my kid. She smirked, unfazed by anyone who didn't shout. Tom muttered about waiting for city backup, meaning his buddy Greg in a reflective sash. I said we were done here. Then Karen did something so reckless I thought it was a prank. She reached into her oversized tote, pulled out a sleek black pistol, and aimed it vaguely at Lily's chest. Time froze. I didn't yell or charge. I told Lily to look at me and think about her recital piece, the way her fingers danced across the strings. Karen declared she was securing the premises under some imagined citizen's authority, like she was starring in a cop drama. Tom, sweating, called it leverage. Leverage doesn't involve a loaded gun pointed at a 14-year-old. A neighbor gasped from across the street. I dialed 911 with one hand, keeping the other visible, and told the dispatcher a woman was threatening my daughter with a firearm. "Officers are en route," she said. "Enough of them." Karen wavered, like she might lower the gun, but doubled down, accusing me of undermining community standards. I asked her to cite one rule that justified this. She had nothing. Lily, her voice steady but small, asked if she could set her violin down. It was heavy. Karen snapped, "No." Then the sirens hit. Not one, but a chorus, tires screeching, radios crackling. Blue lights flooded the street as 3 cruisers and a county SUV pulled up. Sheriff Emma Carter stepped out, her presence like a storm rolling in calm, deliberate, but undeniable. Her hand rested near her holster, not out of fear, but habit. "Ma'am," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "Place the firearm on the ground and step back." Karen turned, still gripping the gun, as if she could talk her way out. I didn't smirk. I didn't need to. The law had arrived, and it wasn't on her side. Sheriff Carter didn't stride like someone open to debate. She moved like she was there to end one. Tall, with a gaze that could pin you to the wall, she repeated her order. Karen clutched the pistol like it was her last shred of control. Lily kept her eyes on me, her face pale but composed, her violin case still in the truck like a silent witness. Tom, his vest now looking like a cheap costume, whispered to Karen to comply. Her eyes flicked to me, searching for a way to spin this. Sheriff Carter cut through. The only rule that matters right now is the one against pointing a gun at a child. The word child landed like a gavel. Karen finally set the pistol down, stiffly, like she was placing a trophy on display. A deputy kicked it away, bagged it, and the air shifted. They separated us, Lily to a cruiser, me to the sidewalk, Karen to a corner for questioning. Her lips moved fast, pointing at me, but Carter ignored her and asked me for the full story. I laid it out: the swing citation, the blocked tailgate, the gun. No embellishments. Halfway through, a black sedan with government plates rolled up. Out stepped Deputy Chief Mark Lawson, a contact from my days doing county contracts. Karen, mistaking him for an ally, rushed over, ranting about HOA bylaws and my hostility. Lawson's face was stone. "Ma'am," he said, "the only hostility here is yours." He turned to Carter. "Call the DA?" She nodded. Neighbors filmed from their lawns. I saw Mrs. Patel, our block's gossip hub, whispering into her phone, likely feeding the story to her friend at the local news. By night, our street would be viral. Carter asked Karen for her gun permit. She insisted she was a law-abiding citizen, but Carter noted that brandishing a firearm at a minor was a felony, permit or not. Karen's face froze, her mind racing through her city hall connections. Meanwhile, I asked if Lily could still make her recital. Carter's eyes softened, and a deputy offered to escort us after statements. Tom tried to pipe up about impounding the swing. I asked if he wanted to argue that with the sheriff present. He backed off. The deputy's questions were meticulous: distances, words, positions. Lily described Karen's trembling hands and shifting tone with eerie precision. By the time they finished, Karen was cuffed, still holding her head high like she was chairing a board meeting. Carter read her rights with a calm that felt almost kind. As Karen was led to a cruiser, the neighborhood buzzed, some smug, some uneasy. Mrs. Lee, the HOA's events planner, gave me a look that said the next meeting would be a bloodbath. Lawson lingered, assuring me the DA would take this seriously. "When you stand up to people like her," he said, "you're protecting everyone too scared to speak." We drove to Lily's recital, her violin safe in the back. She was quiet until we hit the highway, then asked if Karen would return. "Maybe," I said, "but not the same." I didn't tell her I was already planning my next move. "You don't threaten my kid and walk away." Karen had made her play. Now it was my turn. The drama didn't end with the arrest. By Sunday, while Karen sat in county lockup, her allies struck back. 3 new notices appeared on my door: non-compliant landscaping, public disturbance, and pending sanctions. The timestamp 6:17 a.m. screamed Tom's handiwork. He was gunning for HOA president, but his timing was terrible. I left the notices up, letting neighbors see the pettiness in action. My fight wasn't going to be quiet, it was going to be public. Sheriff Carter called that afternoon. The DA was charging Karen with felony brandishing, unlawful restraint, and reckless endangerment. But she warned me Karen's city ties might soften her punishment. "Document everything," Carter said. That evening, Tom showed up, snapping photos of my tree like a private eye. I offered to pose with the swing. He ignored me. I snapped my own time-stamped photo of him. The real escalation hit at an emergency HOA meeting in Tom's garage, a clear violation of open meeting bylaws. I walked in, phone recording, with a neighbor as my witness. Tom, in his vest, called the gun incident an unfortunate overreach and proposed fining me for provoking the board. I asked if hostile environment was an official term or just his invention. Laughter broke his stride. When the vote came, I abstained, letting my camera catch every hand. It passed, but barely 4-3. The HOA was cracking. That night, I mailed every homeowner a letter, laying out the gun incident, the sheriff's response, and the HOA's retaliation. I invited them to the next meeting to demand change. By morning, neighbors were knocking, offering support. Even Mrs. Lee hinted at resigning. Tom doubled down, sending a city inspector over the swing. I asked if the complaint came from a guy in a safety vest. The inspector grinned and cleared the swing. Then an old contact, County Clerk Sarah Monroe, emailed, "Request the HOA's financials." I filed a public records request, dropping it off with Tom at the HOA office. He promised a response in 30 days. I cited the 5-day bylaw. 2 days later, they sent a chaotic box of receipts and ledgers. My CPA friend, Alex, spotted thousands paid to an LLC at Karen's address for security consulting, undisclosed, unbid, and shady. I didn't go public yet. I filed a complaint with the county's HOA Oversight Board, which Sarah fast-tracked. At the next meeting, the room was packed. When Tom dodged questions about Karen, Mrs. Lee resigned, citing ethical failures. I stayed calm, stating the facts: the gun, the fines, the fraud. The crowd clapped. The Oversight Board opened an investigation, freezing HOA spending. Karen posted online, claiming she was smeared. I sent her post to my lawyer, highlighting every lie. The recall petition was my final move. At the fall market, I set up a table, collecting signatures 80% by Sunday. At the recall meeting, I laid out the evidence. The vote was 394 to oust Tom. He left, papers in disarray. Karen's hearing later packed the courtroom. The DA's case was airtight, and her dismissal motion failed. Outside, I told reporters this was about safety, not revenge. The swing stayed. The harassment stopped. Lily played her violin without fear. One evening, Sheriff Carter drove by. "Peace at last?" she asked. "For now," I said. She grinned. "You'll handle it if it breaks." I was ready. The neighborhood had seen what happens when you push back calmly, relentlessly. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt prepared. What do you think? Was Karen a power-hungry tyrant or just a misguided rule follower? Should HOAs have this much control over our lives? Could you have stayed as calm as I did with a gun pointed at your kid? Drop your thoughts below, hit like, and subscribe for more stories where ordinary people take on petty tyrants.